Hello and welcome. Here's your Science News Bulletin for January 8th, 2026.
Coming up, we're looking at a huge step forward in curing a chronic disease that affects millions.
Then, we'll dig into a discovery that's rewriting a key chapter in the human story. And finally, we're going stargazing at a ghost galaxy that's packed with dark matter. Okay, let's dive right in. All right, first up, we have some incredible news from the world of medicine. This is a potential game changer in the fight against chronic hepatitis B. And just to give you an idea of the scale, we're talking about more than 250 million people. That's how many are affected by this persistent viral infection worldwide. It's a major cause of liver cancer, so this is a really big deal. So for years, the holy grail for treatment has been something called a functional cure. Basically, that means the virus becomes undetectable in your blood for a good while after treatment, which slashes long-term health risks. The problem? Current therapies almost never get you there. But that might be about to change, thanks to a new drug called bepirovirsen. Okay, so this drug, bepirovirsen, just went through 2 huge clinical trials. We're talking over 1,800 patients across 29 countries. It's an investigational antisense medicine. Think of it like a smart weapon that stops the virus from making the proteins it needs to survive. And the results? They were statistically and clinically meaningful. For the first time, we might have a finite, just 6-month treatment that could offer a real cure. This is huge for the millions of people living with this. All right, from cutting-edge medicine, let's jump way, way back in time to a discovery that touches on the very story of where we all came from. 773,000 years. That's not a typo. That's how old these newly analyzed fossils are. We're talking about jaws and teeth that were dug up in a cave system over in Morocco. So what makes these bones so special? Well, scientists are saying they represent a kind of evolved form of Homo erectus. It's like finding a missing link. These fossils have features that are more advanced than older Homo erectus remains, but they're not quite Homo sapiens or Neanderthal yet. They sit right in this fascinating evolutionary sweet spot, confirming our species has incredibly deep roots in Africa. And there's been this big gap in the fossil record for a while now. As one of the lead researchers, Dr. Philip Guns, put it, this discovery finally fills that gap. It gives us the actual physical fossil evidence that backs up what genetic studies have been telling us for years, that the story of the Homo sapiens line began in Africa. Okay, so we've looked at our own origins. Now let's zoom out, like way out, to the origins of galaxies themselves. Astronomers using the incredible Hubble Space Telescope have just confirmed a whole new kind of object out there in the cosmos. They've nicknamed it Cloud 9. And it's the very first confirmed example of something they've theorized about for a long time, a real helix. But an easier way to think about it is as a ghost galaxy. It's this huge, ancient cloud of gas from the early universe that had everything it needed to light up with stars, but it just didn't. A failed galaxy. And when you look at what it's made of, wow, that's where it gets really wild. Cloud 9 is almost all dark matter. We're talking about 5 billion times the mass of our sun in dark matter, but only about 1 million solar masses of the actual gas you need to make stars. That is an insane imbalance. And that's the punchline, really. The fact that it's a failure is what makes it such a success for science. As one of the scientists on the project said, we usually learn more from the failures. By studying why this galaxy didn't form, we learn so much more about how galaxies do form. It's like seeing the invisible scaffolding of the universe. All right, let's bring it back to Earth. From the dark universe, we're diving deep into our own oceans for some incredible bio-inspiration. You know how an octopus can just vanish by changing its skin color and texture in a flash? It's amazing. Well, researchers at Stanford have been paying close attention. They've created a new material, a kind of flexible film that does pretty much the same thing, changing both its texture and its color in just seconds. So how does it work? It's pretty clever. They use a super precise electron beam to draw these tiny, tiny patterns on a polymer film. We're talking patterns thinner than a human hair. Then all you have to do is add a little water. The pattern spots swell up and boom, textures and colors appear out of nowhere. And when you want it to go flat again, you just use a solvent to remove the water. The possibilities here are huge. Think dynamic camouflage or even flexible displays that can change on the fly. Okay, for our next story, we're looking at the environment and a pretty stark reminder of the unintended consequences our technology can have. This story starts back in 2019 with a massive oil spill off the coast of Brazil. Then, about 240 days later, something strange starts washing up on beaches in Florida, oily debris. And scientists were able to trace it all the way back to that spill in Brazil. That's a journey of over 5,000 miles across the entire Atlantic Ocean. But the real question wasn't just that it traveled so far, but how? And here's the answer. It turns out plastic pollution completely changes how oil behaves in the ocean. The oil basically hitchhikes on pieces of plastic, glass, and rubber. This combination, which researchers are now calling petroplastic, allows the oil to survive for much longer and travel way farther than it ever could on its own. It's a whole new kind of long-distance pollution problem. All right, let's wrap things up with a quick roundup of other headlines and a peek at what's happening in the night sky. So, what else is happening? Well, researchers in Japan have successfully built tiny human brain circuits in the lab. Also making news, scientists have found ancient herpes virus DNA embedded right in our own genomes. On the environmental front, a new analysis shows wildfires are releasing way more polluting gases than we thought. And a fascinating study found that teenagers who get to sleep in on weekends actually have a lower risk of depression. And if you're looking up at the sky tonight, keep an eye out for the quadrantid meteor shower, which is active right now. It's known for some really bright fireballs. And get your telescopes ready, because on January 10th, Jupiter is going to be at its biggest and brightest, visible all night long. And that's your science news for today. Our next update will be in 24 hours. If you found this informative, please do like and subscribe. Thanks for joining us.